the easiest specs that are dominating in WoW Midnight. That's right, maybe you're just that Andy out there who just wants a very casual type of gameplay, and yet you still want the spec to be good enough that it's viable in some way, shape, or form. Well, this list right here and this video from the Comeback Kids is going to tell you exactly which classes you might want to main in the Midnight expansion. With all the class changes coming, there's going to be a lot of things changing in the coming pre-patch and in the expansion. So let's check out this video here and see what it's all about.
When you're about to hop into a new World of Warcraft expansion, it can always be daunting deciding what class to main, whether it be because you took a break for a while, you prefer to play different versions of WoW, or simply it's just your first time playing World of Warcraft.
It's going to be Blood DK. What are you, crazy? I play Blood DK, and it is absolutely not an easy class to play. The mastery of that class takes the utmost intelligence, and that's why I play it every day. It's a challenge, and I like and appreciate the challenge. Now, I'm the best Blood DK to ever play the game, so, you know, the challenge is really for other people to get on my level, but Blood DK, I guarantee, will not be on this list.
Comeback Kids are here to help. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the easiest DPS specs you could main in World of Warcraft Midnight. This is going to be based on the skill level required to play the spec, the performance of how the spec is doing right now, the design, and if it's fun, and then also the class theme as well. Hopefully by doing so, we can steer you in the right direction for a class that's perfect for you. Starting off first with what could be the overall easiest and most solid performance
Beast Mastery Hunter.
The Beast Mastery Hunter. Now, listen,
I mean, no surprise here. Like, for anybody who wants to, you know, take a very casual turn at leveling up or running delves, solo content as a Beast Mastery Hunter is just like, it's a walk in the park. Honestly. Your pets are so OP. You're just big dick swinging everywhere, throwing all these animals around, and it's pretty easy. You basically never take damage, and you deal big dick damage, so... Nice one. I agree with this one.
And I'm going to say this up front. If you're a new player or you simply don't have much skill in World of Warcraft and you just want something that deals a lot of damage for not doing that much work, Beast Mastery Hunter is simply one of the best picks for you. It's definitely not by all means the flashiest class, but it's known for being the easiest in the game. Believe it or not, they simplified the spec even more heading into Midnight. Rotationally, they replaced your multi-shot with a brand new AoE ability called Wild Thrash that hits very hard. This will also then proc your Beast Cleave and allow most of your kit to be completely AoE damage without having to do anything special. From there, you use your Barb Shot ability to get your bleeds rolling on your target, and then you use Kill Command in Wild Thrash to then spread Barb Shot through your Pet Stomp with the Wild Instincts talent. Not only that, your Dire Beast ability...
So they buff these guys to be even better at AoE. I mean, they're already good. Yeah, Beast Mastery Hunter is going to be good.
Is now a passive and now procs off of your bleeds whenever they deal damage. So most of your rotation is really fluid, simple, straightforward, and back and forth between these 3 or 4 buttons that help keep everything rolling and smooth. You also have your Pack Leader hero talent tree that's focused on amplifying your pet damage and summoning more creatures from the wild to aid you in battle, as well as the new and improved Dark Ranger hero talent tree, which now has you summon an additional Dark Hound whenever you Bestial Wrath to deal AoE damage while you cast your Black Arrow ability to tie in everything together, which feels really great. Also, when it comes to the brand new Apex talents, Nature's Ally, it simply amplifies your Bestial Wrath damage to deal AoE damage, summon an additional pet from your stable to help you in battle,
AoE
and then
out
have
the
your
ass.
Barb Shot deal more damage and increase the effectiveness of your kill command after using it. Now listen, of course it's no surprise, if you clicked on this video and you're looking for a class to deal really good damage that's very straightforward, I would honestly say this is probably the best spec you could play in the game from that very specific aspect.
I agree.
I think Beast Mastery Hunter is great for new players or players returning to the game that haven't played in a while, that's just looking for something very low-key, simple, and casual to enjoy World of Warcraft with. Moving on next, we have another Hunter spec, and that is going to be the new and improved melee DPS Survival Hunter. Now listen, Survival Hunter got a nice little facelift heading into Midnight.
I mean, just Fiend Death alone for Hunters is such a big, you know, thing to make the game easier. You know, you fuck up, you pull too much, guess what? You're dead. Fake death. And then you get back up and you go at it again. And then you got your pets always. I'm not surprised that we might see all 3 Hunter specs on this list.
The thematic change. This spec is swapping from, you know, the survival traps expert into now survival bombs, shotgun, and explosives. And the new class fantasy overall, I think people are enjoying it. Now, when it comes to the fluid rotation, Survival Hunter is easily amongst one of the best in the entire game with its core rotation. The centerpiece of Survival Hunter is called the Tip of the Spear passive. This makes it to where whenever
just the tip. Sorry, I had to.
You use kill command, your next ability deals increased damage. Also, brand new core to your rotation is the boomstick ability. This has you take out a giant shotgun and shoot out a channel frontal cone damage ability that hits like a Mack truck. So the rotation for survival is very simple. You open up with kill command, you gain your tip of the spear procs, and then you use these procs on abilities like wildfire bomb and boomstick to deal massive AoE damage. Also, keeping your rotation very fluid on survival, pretty much every ability you use reduces the cooldown of another ability. So, for example, every enemy you hit while your wildfire bomb reduces the cooldown of boom.
Am I the only one that thinks survival hunters shouldn't have pets, or maybe like the pet should be optional? Maybe optional, but like when I think of a survival hunter, I think of like an off the grid, you know, grinded it out in the forest. I could imagine him having a pet. You know, I could imagine it. Or, you know, you could also imagine, as you said before, like maybe just being a lone ranger. You don't got a pet. You're just out there surviving on your own. But I don't think survival hunters having a pet is really that off. I always wanted to, what's the other spec for hunters? The, you know, just the freaking, you know, shooting arrows one. I always thought that one, yeah, you could play without a pet for sure. Because you're just a ranger at that point. Just marksman. At that point, you're just a specialist in bows. You're a Legolas, you know. So that one, yeah, not having a pet, I was always okay with. Survival, I think, can rock a pet and still fit the class lore.
Boomstick. Each enemy you hit with boomstick reduces the cooldown of wildfire bomb. Using kill command reduces the cooldown of wildfire bomb. So you have this very simple, straightforward rotation in a gameplay system that hits very hard, it's very fun, and it's very fluid in terms of rotation for survival hunter. Not only that, when it comes to their apex talent, Raptor Swipe, it's honestly one of the best in the game. It makes it to where whenever you use your filler ability, Raptor Strike, the next time you use it again, it'll turn it into an AoE heavy hitting attack called Raptor Swipe that deals a good amount of
a lot of AoE buffs for
to
hunters.
Enemies in an AoE around your target. Listen, overall, there's really not much to say about survival other than the fact that it's a very straightforward class that hits very, very hard right now with a very simple and fluid rotation. If you're looking for an easy class you can main in Midnight, I think Hunter in general is in a really good spot, but I do think a lot of people will be surprised with how awesome Survival Hunter is right now. Moving on, next stop, we have one of the most simple designs in the game.
Subtlety Rogue.
Subtlety Rogue. Now, typically, Subtlety Rogue is known as being one of the more complicated specs in WoW. You know, timing up your perfect Shadow Dance windows with a complicated AoE and single target rotation. Well, not anymore. Heading into Midnight, they simplified this spec into one of the most straightforward classes.
This is a theme, by the way, of Midnight as a whole with class design going forward. You guys are going to notice this, I'm sure, when pre-patch hits and all the class changes go into effect. One big thing is like limiting the amount of resources you manage, limiting the amount of spells you manage, cooldown windows, stuff like that. It's all supposed to be easier. And that goes into, you know, that kind of leans into the fact that a lot of these add-ons that you have to have right now to play your class properly, they're not going to be available anymore. So the way your class plays should be easier. That's the philosophy at least Blizzard's put out there. So this is not just a sub-titty rogue thing. It's all classes are supposed to be a little bit easier to play.
In the game, with the spec that deals a sneaky amount of damage.
I'm surprised to see them on the list too. Yeah,
like Symbols of Death and Flagellation,
I guess
and
they
the
really
Dance
changed.
Macabre passive, you know, percentage damage increase on their talent tree. And it's turned Subtlety Rogue into a spec that presses Shadow Dance, uses a builder such as Shadow Strike and Shuriken Storm, and then uses a finisher with their combo points such as Eviscerate or Black Powder, and that's literally the entire rotation. Now, depending on who you ask, they're probably going to be upset that's simplified to just a few buttons, but because of your damage being so high right now, people aren't complaining too much about this. Now, if you clicked on this video looking for a spec with a really awesome class fantasy that's simple and deals really good damage, Subtlety Rogue can be for you. This spec is all about summoning shadow clones in combat to copy and mimic your abilities, similar to Zed from League of Legends if you've ever played him. You have talents like Shuriken Tornado and Weapon Master that can summon these clones, deal additional damage through your rotation. Not only that, with your Ancient Arts Apex talent, you have
Sam gonna play the rotation macro button game. I don't need that. I'm just gonna use. You could single button rotation now. Rotation macros. Who needs those? You can just single button. Technically, every class is easy to play now. At a minimum, you just single button rotation it.
additional chances to summon these shadow clones and generate full combo points more with your shadow techniques passive, which is core to Subtlety Rogue by giving you free combo points based off of your basic attacks that have a chance to proc that. Now, you can see on the screen you have this proc whenever it goes off.
Only works
pretty
for
much
DPS,
indicate you and let you know whenever you use your next finishing ability, it will recharge your combo point bar completely full. So the rotation is simple. You use Shadow Strike or Shuriken Storm depending on if you're in single target or AoE, and then you use your finishing ability until you get an Ancient Arts proc, and then you could use a finisher back to back, which, listen, I will admit from a personal standpoint, it feels very good. I will say, I do think it's a tad bit too simplified, but if you're looking for a DPS spec that has an awesome class fantasy built around shadow clones and stealth with massive burst damage, this spec can absolutely be for you heading into midnight. Moving on next, you can't have an easy DPS specs to main.
I mean, you already know 50% of the player base is going to be Retribution Paladins, so this is not a surprise. Yeah, easy, fun. I always rip Ret Paladins, but the truth is, they're just one of the most well-made classes in the game. Like, it's been that way for a while. Whoever does the class design for Retribution Paladin, they just know what they're doing. It's fun to play. As I understand it, a good time. It feels good. The procs feel nice. And obviously anything as a paladin, you got bubble. You can self-heal. Like, it's a very survivable class, right? So if you're playing as this spec, you're not going to die much. If you're doing solo content, you should always be able to survive.
List without mentioning the Retribution Paladin. Now, the simplification of Ret Paladin over the last couple expansions has done wonders for the spec overall and turned it into something many people find very enjoyable. You have a simple builder-spender style of gameplay where you have abilities that build holy powers, such as Judgment, Blade of Justice.
Yeah, Liberate George, you're right. And like that goes with anything. You're saying a good player can differentiate themselves with good Ret utility. It's true. I mean, with any of these classes, even if they're considered to be easy to play, it's just that's an easy barrier to entry. But if you're a really good player, you can always differentiate yourself and like really max a freaking class out and just use the total kit and be elite.
And your passive
just because it's easy to get into,
and then you have abilities that spend
that
that holy power, such as Divine Storm or Final Verdict. What ties this entire spec together, however, is your Wake of Ashes ability being combined with the Radiant Glory talent passive. This makes it to where every 30 seconds you passively pop Avenging Wrath whenever you use Wake of Ashes, which increases your damage substantially. You also combine this with one or two of your hero talents, such as Templar, by giving you the ability to use Hammer of Light after you use Wake of Ashes, as well as Herald of the Sun hero talent tree, amplifying your next abilities to deal additional damage over time, applying Dawnlight. So, with Retribution Paladin, the rotation's simple. You open up with your Executioner Sentence, that's now AoE passively. You use your Wake of Ashes, which passively pops your Avenging Wrath, and then you use your builders to then use your spenders, like Divine Storm and Final Verdict. And that's it. That's the entire rotation. It's a lot of fun. It's visually and thematically amazing, because I think Retribution Paladin is one of the coolest specs in all of World of Warcraft, because you're still that Avenger of Light that's all about retribution and bringing justice to evil, to always uphold truth and protect all that is good, fun stuff when it comes to paladins and retribution. So I will say also their Apex talent Light Within, it is entirely passive also, just amplifies your damage a little bit. It is a little bit too passive in my opinion, but I'm not gonna lie, this spec, I could always find myself playing in World of Warcraft, especially heading into the expansion, all about fighting the Void. You have
Man, that human, I thought his pants were crotchless for a second. Completely, off-base comment. But when he first pulled this image up, I thought those were crotchless pants.
Build variety between two hero talent trees, a straightforward, high dopamine rotation every 30 seconds with Wake of Ashes, and passively popping Avenging Wrath. It's a class that always performs pretty well. Really excited about Retribution Paladin and how
now they need him.
It is. Moving on next, probably the biggest surprise on this list.
Mage.
We have the brand new reworked Frost.
Now, which of the three mage specs is hitting hard enough? I thought it was Arcane, but I saw in like the most recent patch notes that they nerfed the shit out of a lot of Arcane abilities. So maybe Arcane is not the hardest hitting mage spec going into the expansion. Maybe it's Frost. I don't know. But again, this list is not about like which is doing the most DPS. It's about kind of the easiest to get to know and get good at.
Mage. Yes, you heard that correctly. Frost Mage got reworked heading to the new expansion, but trust me, all in the best ways. Most of your abilities affect enemies with the new and improved Shatter mechanic. This is a debuff that stacks up to 20 times, which you then use other abilities such as Ice Lance and Comet Storm to shatter and explode these stacks of shatter to deal AoE damage and activate a bunch of different things in
So it's
your
like a
talent
dot
tree,
spec
including
now,
your
like
Apex
you're saying,
talent,
Mega,
Hands
yeah.
of Frost, which has a chance to shoot out anytime you shatter stacks on an enemy. Not only that, Icy Veins is gone, it's replaced by the Ray of Frost ability that's pretty much just a giant frost laser that deals a bunch of AoE damage around your target, and then afterwards you can activate Comet Storm to shatter 15 to 20 stacks of shatter in a big AoE fashion, which looks and feels phenomenal. So from a general core gameplay perspective, the rotation for Frost Mage is simple. You build stacks of shatter, you shatter them as fast as possible, deal big AoE damage. Not only that, their talent tree in general is designed easily one of the best in the entire game. They have tons of build variety across the board, and I think if you've ever had the idea of, you know, potentially wanting to play Frost Mage in WoW, I'm gonna be honest, I think in Midnight, this could be your best chance at playing it. It's a very straightforward spec. That's
it sounds like a fun, fun mini game to play. That's what a lot of these classes, you know, and specs. It's you're playing like a mini game, right? You're trying to get something to proc, or you're trying to do something. This sounds kind of fun, right? You build up the stack of dots, and then you use certain abilities to shatter the shit out of them, popping out big numbers. Some people get mad when a rotation gets simplified, but I think if it's fun, it doesn't matter if it's simple. This sounds like a fun mini game to play as you know you're going through your rotation.
Easily amongst one of my favorite designs in the entire game at this point, let alone being very straightforward and easy to play, that anyone can pick it up. If you're looking for an easy class that's set to dominate, there is absolutely no shot you do not consider Frost Mage. Now, moving on next, we have our first warrior spec with the Fury Warrior. Now, listen, I'll say it simply.
He said it wrong. It's the Furry Warrior. That's right.
I haven't enjoyed Fury Warrior for a long time, but let me tell you something here. This spec has made a massive comeback in Midnight World of Warcraft.
Really?
We all know Warrior in general is amongst one of the most straightforward classes you can play in any RPG, but my god, Fury Warrior is a banger so far on the beta. Fury Warrior works off of a couple core mechanics. You have your Enrage mechanic, which increases your damage overall for a short duration, and then you have your improved Whirlwind, which you gain from using Thunderclap or Whirlwind, which causes your attacks to be converted into a, you know, splash, cleave, AoE damage effect. And both of these are very simple and effective. The general idea is simple. You want to keep up both of these as much as you can to deal big damage. You can combine this with your Avatar and Recklessness cooldowns, which also ties in your Apex talent, which is called the Rampaging Berserker. This makes it to where your Rampage ability is drastically lowered in terms of rage cost during Recklessness. It increases your strength by a flat percentage and stacks infinitely, so you end up becoming just an unstoppable force of damage and rage with a rotation that flows within itself very easily and very fluid as you just swing heavy hitting.
What's up, DJ? This sounds like a mini Lust or something. It sounds like a pretty cool ability.
Monster attacks, and everything feels great. Now, for you experienced WoW players out there, you know that Fury Warrior has had issues in the past with AoE damage and capped and all that, but they did make it a bit better in Midnight overall, while also adding a new talent called Rampaging Druid to deal more damage in an uncapped AoE fashion. So things are a lot better for that. So the gameplay for Fury is very simple. You pop your cooldowns in one button, spam Raging Blow and Bloodthirst while weaving in the occasional Thunderclap from your Mountain Thane hero talent tree, and you will literally see everything blow up. I'm not kidding, it's as simple as that, and it's a crap load of fun just annihilating and swinging these giant two-handed weapons around you in just a ridiculous fashion. From a class fantasy perspective, this...
Some of us know what it feels like to swing giant things, regardless of what spec we're playing. I'm just saying.
Class hasn't felt great for a long time, but the fact that right now you're literally just an unrelenting force of fury and damage, it really hones in on that warrior fantasy, and it makes this class just a crap load of fun overall, even though it's straightforward as a warrior. I promise you, if you ever enjoyed Fury Warrior in the past, this can be the expansion. You make a comeback and play this spec. Moving on next, furries. And surprisingly, we got to talk about the Balance Druid. Now listen, I know I'm just as shocked as you are, but honestly, balance is not as nearly as complicated as everyone would make it out to be.
The battle chicken has returned? The age of the chicken. We are back.
And I genuinely think this spec is awesome in World of Warcraft right now. The rotation is super enjoyable in Mythic Plus content, and this is where I think you truly shine on Balanced Druid. I'm going to put it plain and simple. The more enemies you're encountering and fighting at once as Balance, the stronger this spec actually becomes.
So it's an AoE champion?
This spec scales harder than most DPS specs in the entire game, the bigger the pulls get. And that's what I think makes this spec so much fun. The core rotation, very simple. You want to keep every enemy around you afflicted with Moonfire and Sunfire, and then you use your Starfire or Wrath to build Astral Power. And then you spend your...
Are all those beams coming? There's some cool animations. That's a lot of shit going on the screen, though. Jeez.
Astral Power on Star Surge, which is your single target ability, or Starfall for AoE. Heading into Midnight, they reworked the spec a bit to make it to where your entire goal is to stay in an Eclipse state for as long as possible, because while you're in this, you gain substantially more damage and power, which is a kind of cool mechanic to flow through. From there, your talents really take over and make the spec feel really well designed. You have Shooting Stars dealing passive damage to enemies affected by Moonfire and Sunfire. You have Meteorites passively coming down to enemies affected by Starfall, and then you have Touch of the Cosmos giving you free cast of Starfall or Star Surge, which feels amazing rotationally. And then to upkeep that damage over time effect on Moonfire and Sunfire so you don't have to constantly reapply it, you have the Ethereal Kindling, which increases the duration of these dots whenever you Starfall, which makes everything keep up and rolling for your dots in Mythic Plus.
Yeah, good point on one of the issues Liberate with the with this kind of class spec play is if these groups are getting annihilated too quickly, you kind of don't get to do a lot of damage, because your whole thing is the more mobs that are up, the more damage you're going to do. So if the mobs are getting killed quickly, the mob pull is shrinking very fast, and you're not going to do a lot of damage. But again, it's not a list about damage. It's about fun. This sounds fun.
I will say my personal favorite talent for them, though, is the Orbit Breaker talent, which calls down a giant moon to strike your enemies in an AoE fashion whenever they're getting
look
hit
at that
by shooting
animation.
stars. I will say overall, listen, Balanced Druid is a very, very fluid builder-spender spec. Feels very nice in a Mythic Plus environment in particular. I don't really know too much about Raid, but the spec shines harder and harder the more mobs your tank pulls, so I think that's amazing. And then on top of that, visually and sound design-wise, it's easily, cool. I would say, the best in the entire game. The astral and lunar effects going all across your screen, meteors falling down, moons slamming into enemies. I don't think it gets any better than that. I think this spec is an absolute banger. I'm very excited about both their hero talent trees being viable as well. Apex talent really helps them with getting their damage up and rolling instantly. I'm loving Balanced Druid right now, easily amongst one of my favorite specs in the entire game. Moving on next to another ranged DPS, we have the Devastation Evoker. Now, Devastation is known for having one of, if not the highest burst damage in the game. Now, heading into Midnight, believe it or not, they even greatly simplify.
What the shit? What was that? Why can't Drakthir look like this? Why do they got to be scaly boys? Again, it's sexual fetishes and WoW. I don't know why we got to do that. If Drakthir looked like this, I would have made a fucking Drakthir. I don't know if I would have played as one, but damn. This is a thick boy right here. That's a thick, scaly boy. That's a testosterone-filled Drakthir. Instead, we get the, we get the femboys. Femboy, scaly boys running around, ready to go into the Moon Garden.
They even greatly simplified the Devastation Evoker's kit with their hero talent trees.
Sam, do you think we need another tank spec? Hell yeah, we do. I've been saying it for a while. I thought when Evokers were getting a third spec, I thought it was going to be a Black Dragonflight-based tanking spec, and I still think that's what it should have been, rather than augmentation. And then when we were maybe going to get Tinkers, when we went through the whole Undermine patch, I thought, okay, we're going to get a Tinker class mech suit tank. Yeah, I definitely think we need another tanking spec in this game.
Trees embedded in their tree. Now, when it comes to gameplay styles, it varies depending on what hero talent tree you play, so we kind of have to break it down like that. First up, you have the Scale Commander,
Shaman
which
tanks
you
I
command
mentioned
the
before
Evoker
too,
army, so whenever you Deep Breath, you summon a squadron to aid you in battle, and whenever you use one of your Empower abilities like Flame Breath or Eternity Surge, it amplifies your next Disintegrate into an AoE laser that affects multiple enemies and applies the Bombardment debuff.
Damn.
The Bombardment debuff will then increases your allies' damage to them and reduce the cooldown of your Deep Breath whenever it is procced by your allies. This ties hand in hand with their new Strafing Run talent, which allows you to use Deep Breath twice before it incurs on its cooldown, so it makes you have the ability to use Deep Breath constantly. And as playing a Devastation evoker, if you've ever played the spec, it's one of the most fun abilities you can press in the game.
Yeah, it looks
So
like
the
a fun
rotation
ability.
for this
It does.
spec is simple. You open up with Deep Breath, use your...
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I've never played it, but like just aiming a frontal cone, charging, it looks like something that'd be fun to use constantly. So if you're using it a lot, it looks like it'd make the spec pretty fun to play. Will you be playing TBC, Sam? Not unless I get bored, like very bored of retail. For the most part, no, I'm just going to play retail.
Power abilities such as Eternity Surge and Flame Breath, and then you greatly amplify your next Disintegrate to deal massive damage in an AoE fashion. And it's a rotation that becomes very nice visually, it's explosive, and easy to understand. Then you also have the Flame Shaper hero talent tree that got reworked as well. They reworked Consume Flame into a passive that is now built into Pyre. It now causes your Fire Breath damage over time effect to explode, and not only that, Fire Breath now has 2 charges, which feels great for the spec rotationally. Not only that, I think Devastation Evoker has one of the best Apex talents in the game with Rising Fury. It greatly increases your damage throughout the entirety of your cooldown windows and even after you use them, so it makes everything feel a lot more impactful when you have your cooldowns ready to go. Honestly, I think Devastation is in a very good spot right now. The damage is very explosive and bursty, and the spec has some of the best build variety in the game with 2 hero talent trees that are very different, but both very fun. Loving Devastation right now amongst the more straightforward classes in the game. Very effective, good build variety. Love them heading into midnight. Moving on next.
Yeah, give me thick, Draconid looking Drakthir, and maybe I'll try it out. Oh, Arms Warrior.
We have the other warrior spec for DPS, and that is the Arms Warrior. Now, Arms Warrior has easily one of the more simple rotations in the entire game, and I gotta admit, the spec is doing pretty well rotationally right now. Your whole goal is simple. You keep up Rend on your enemies, you use Overpower to vastly increase the damage of your next Cleave or Mortal Strike, and then from there you pop Colossus Smash to deal big damage in an AoE, which then applies your Warbreaker debuff to all enemies around you, which increases the damage by 30% you deal to them. With a new talent called Broad Strokes, you automatically apply Sweeping Strikes whenever you use Colossus Smash, which feels great rotationally when you're trying to target abilities in an AoE Cleave scenario.
Have you noticed a lot of this list is based on like it's fun to do AoE damage, which it is. That's why a lot of people got mad with the whole AoE cap. Like if you played in Legion, like pre-AoE cap days, damn, there was some fun to be had. I mean, when we got really tough with our Legion legendaries, like we had just maxed that shit out. You just pull like massive pulls in these dungeons and just AoE the shit out of them, and it was a lot of fun. So it looks like maybe some AoE fun is coming back to the game.
So from that point on, you pretty much just annihilate everything on screen, going about your normal rotation. Some of the highest damaging abilities I've even seen in Midnight are from my Mortal Strike effect, AoE empowered, overpowered abilities. I think everything when it comes to Arms Warrior feels pretty fluid, and it's very straightforward. Both of your hero talent trees feel pretty good for the respective content as well. Colossus tree.
Hoxers, simplifying rotations for casuals so they don't have to complain about pressing buttons. I don't think that's what this is all about, honestly. It's simplifying the rotations is kind of necessary because right now there's a lot of rotations that are so complicated that you need an add-on to properly do it. And a lot of that shit's going away, so if they just left the rotations the way they were, a lot of these classes would have kind of been unplayable to optimize. And then it's, okay, so it's an easy barrier to entry. I don't mind that, because I still think players with a lot of skill are going to play these classes better than people who are not highly skilled. I still think there's that aspect of it. Yes, it might be easier to pick up, and yeah, maybe you could play it on an Xbox controller. Hey, it's coming to console, you know. But besides that, like going to max out your tune and doing the most damage as possible.
Let us lay waste to this realm.
I think still highly skilled players are going to have the opportunity to do that. Smash 3DX, thank you for the follow, man. Welcome to our Scourge.
Of course, is going to be your Mythic Plus go-to with the Demolish ability being great for AoE, and then you're going to be using Slayer focused on execute big Blade Storm damage whenever you need to for your raiding environment. I will say overall,
while going to console is not a bad thing. Anything that grows the player base is a good thing. Besides, I don't know, like just, what's it called? Pay to win kind of shit. Like, I don't want that to be the reason people play the game. But making the WoW community bigger, I think that's a good thing. MOBA has 4 buttons, and the difference between a pro player and a casual is insane. There you go. Great first comment, Smash, and totally true. Just because there isn't a maximum amount of buttons does not mean that rotational skill cannot be optimized.
also really enjoy their Apex talent, Master of Warfare. How it works is every so
It's a
often
smoother
your
learning curve,
Slam
yeah.
ability gets upgraded to the Heroic Strike ability, which is a nice little callback to the early versions of World of Warcraft. This ability not only deals a ton of damage, it lowers the armor of the enemy you're attacking, while also greatly reducing the cooldown of your Colossus Smash ability. Like I said before, Colossus Smash means more damage for you, automatically applying sweeping strikes, which feels very good rotationally. To cap it off though, what I really love about this is that if you have the Fervor of Battle talent, it has you automatically use Heroic Strike whenever you use Cleave in an AoE scenario.
Nice, a 2
that
for
hits
1.
3 or more enemies. So in one button, you use 2 buttons.
Yeah.
And from a rotational perspective, it feels very good, very straightforward, and you hit very
And
hard.
Warrior overall
with
looks
big,
like it's in a good
bursty,
place.
heavy hitting abilities, and everything feels very fun. All in all, we all know the Warrior is a very straightforward class in most RPGs. It's a Warrior with a giant two-handed weapon. You charge in there and you swing to
classic
deal
Warrior.
massive damage. If that's what you're interested in, that's what Arms Warrior is. I gotta say right now, it feels pretty damn good to play. Now, moving on to the last spec, we have
Devour
the brand new
Demon
kid on the
Hunter.
block, the Devour Demon
new
Hunter. This
boy.
is the newest spec coming into Midnight, and it easily has one of the most unique playstyles in the entire game. Devour on paper seems pretty straightforward, but actually mastering this spec does take a bit of practice. So if you're looking for a spec that's easy to learn and pick up, but a very high skill ceiling, this one can be for you. From a core perspective, Devour is all about ripping souls from enemies and absorbing them into yourself to enter Void Metamorphosis. Once you're in Void Meta, you gain access to the hardest hitting ability in all of World of Warcraft called Collapsing Star.
Oh.
The entire gimmick of this spec is that you want to stay inside Void Meta for as long as you can, because Collapsing Star not only hits like an absolute nuke, but every time you cast it, it increases the damage of your next one, meaning the longer you maintain your momentum, the more insane your damage becomes. So
That sounds fun. I mean, I remember there was a time when I used to play Frost DK, and I don't know if it still works the same way, but like keeping out Breath of Cindergosa, like keeping it going, was the minigame you used to play with that spec, and it was always a lot of fun. Like if you could keep a really long breath streak going, it just felt so damn good. So this sounds like that plays the same way, where you do this shit to enter Metamorphosis, and then you're just keeping it going as long as you can. That's always a fun gameplay style.
rotation turns into this really satisfying loop where you're constantly trying to devour as many souls as possible, chain your uptime,
King
and get into
Julian,
Void
what's-
Meta to deal big damage. And it's very addictive. I think it's a very unique playstyle. It reminds me of old Shadow Priest back in the day with Surrendered Madness, where, you know, you're gambling everything on pushing your uptime and keeping that form alive. It's intense, high pressure, and I think it's very satisfying when you pull it off properly. I think Devour is in a good spot right now. I do think they need 1 or 2 more abilities to really make them truly engaging, but they are easy, they are straightforward, and they're performing well right now in a very unique gameplay style heading into Midnight World of Warcraft. But okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up today's videos on the easiest DPS specs you can main heading into Midnight WoW. Very straightforward,
Nice.
performing well specs
Nice
right now.
list.
They have great design with hero talent trees and build variety that also look to perform well. We have a lot more content coming soon, as well as the ultimate class picking guide in just a week or so for World of Warcraft Midnight. So if you're interested, stay tuned for more content.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, consider subscribing or check out one of the videos you see on screen here to stay up to date on all things Warcraft. My name's Sky for the Comeback Kids. It's an absolute pleasure to make content for you all. I'll see you in the next one.
Nice video. I agree a lot with this, a lot of this stuff. And what's interesting about this video is, you know, he's talking about the classes in their new version, right? Because again, a lot of this shit's changing going forward. A nice video overall from the Comeback Kids.